It's the combination of all those things that come together to form that real world edge. It's really identifying where are the big players likely to be present, right? Why are they going to act in the way that they're going to act today? And then how do I actually have a superior risk reward and high probability in that moment based on those two previous factors? That all defines real world edge to us. We're all in this game, at least on our desk. We want every trader that walks through the door to be here for 10 years. And we know if they can be here for 10 years, if they can sit in their seat for 10 years, they're going to do quite well. And that's historically what we've seen. And so a big part of everything that we do is making sure that that every moment that you're working is grounded in edge. We play in a space where there's a lot of room for error, and that's okay. Because we make a lot of mistakes, and that's okay too. But when your edge is really present, that's the moment to really take advantage of it in the market. When everything lines up, that is the opportunity that we are all here for. I work just as hard now as I did the first day I started trading. Like it doesn't, the work doesn't go away. The challenges don't go away. Maybe the zeros change, and and like the magnitude of the emotions kind of can change at times. But all those that feel like, oh, I don't really do much work, or I'm now at a point where I can coast or anything like that. I don't really think that's what we're here to do as traders.
This episode of the Speculators podcast is sponsored by Jigsaw Trading. Jigsaw Trading is an industry leader when it comes to order flow tools, training, and equipping traders to make better trade decisions. And if you've ever been trading and just feel a little lost and feel like you're missing something, and maybe you've been drawn to order flow and intuitively you know that it's important and that you should be learning this, but it's just a little overwhelming because of how it moves and because of the numbers, and you don't really know where to start. I get it, but you need to check out Jigsaw Trading. On a personal level, my first exposure into order flow and the idea that this is important came directly from Peter Davies, the founder of Jigsaw Trading. And even through to today, most of what I do with order flow and my thoughts around it came directly from Jigsaw. We're gonna have more to say about Jigsaw later in the episode, and I'm gonna give you some direction on how you can access free order flow training starting as soon as today. But for now, let's get started with today's episode. I'm very glad that you're here. I hope you get something from today's conversation, and a big thank you to Jigsaw for sponsoring the episode. Let's begin.
Mr. Jeff, welcome to the channel. Thank you for stopping by. How are you?
Good. Don't call me Mr. Jeff. I actually was like, where's my dad? Or where's, so just Jeff's fine. Thanks very much for having me. Excited to do this. We've kind of poked around and seen some of the videos you've done, and we're excited to answer some of the questions and be able to talk with you and some of the folks that are in your audience.
Awesome. Very good. And I'll start off just by giving you a few flowers, because as far as people online that I'm very interested to talk to or that I would really respect in this space, it's a very short list. Anybody from SMB Capital and of course yourself would be on this list. And so I'm very excited just to be able to hear you speak, just to be able to ask you some questions. I'm very thankful for the time. I know myself and everybody listening to this is going to be better off for just spending a little bit of time with you. I hope that we can use our time efficiently, and we can jump right into things. By way of maybe just a little bit of introduction here, and I don't want to spend long on this, but could you go over your origin story? I think that we talk a lot about what's going on with the firm and things, and you're a very interesting person as well. Just why trading for you? What was some of your first exposure? The bullet points that led you to SMB Capital, and how long you've been there?
Yeah. My trading story is remarkably similar to probably a lot of the people in the audience, and also similar to a lot of the people on the desk. There was, I kind of learned about trading and a little bit about it, and thought that trading was buying calls before earnings, and found that really wasn't trading, because Apple was definitely going to go up, or Tesla was definitely going to go up. And so I need to buy calls before the earnings because, found very quickly that's not really how you learn. I was fortunate to have somebody pretty early on who was instrumental in me understanding that you need to have an edge in your trading. You can't go on hunch. It's not just follow the same stocks every day and get to understand them. And so that was really helpful for me. That piqued my interest in what trading was. But the evolution from there to being on the desk is quite, an interesting one, because I probably tried half a dozen or a dozen different, what I would call strategies, things that I'd learned from different people or read online or heard from somebody on Twitter or something like that. And really all of them seemed to have an underlying source of edge, but they got exposed pretty quickly. Over time, you would see where that trade would work and where that trade wouldn't work. And it just really hurt, especially when I was developing, to not really understand why the trade wasn't working. So that sort of began a quest to really find real world edge in trading. I kind of took a strategy that I had learned, ultimately thought had some real world edge, and then did some testing around it, built some technology around it. Even as a beginning retail trader, recognized the need to do that. Have something where I was at least alerted to general ideas that met my criteria, and then realized a lot of trading is actually saying no. It's having a setup and saying no to that's not really exactly what I need right now, or what I'm looking for right now, or this component's off or that component's off. Ultimately, that led to me having edge in one strategy, and found a little success with that. Still on the retail side, loved the experience of trading with edge, because a lot of those psychological issues that I had, or we talked about, or we worked Dr. Steenbarger a lot, he'll talk about it. A lot of those psychological issues seem to kind of go away a little bit when you're actually trading with real edge, because you're grounded in your edge. The thing that was interesting was, at that point I was trading with one source of edge. I happened to I think I took one of the training courses from SMB, or read something about SMB, or got connected with them or whatever, and met Steve. And in talking with Steve, it was very evident to me that most of the traders on the desk were trading with 4 or 5 unique sources of edge. So where I had one edge, these guys were, and these traders were trading with 4 or 5 times as much edge as I had. And they were also trading with different edges. So if one edge wasn't present, they could go to this other playbook or this other source of edge and take advantage of the opportunities, where I might not get my trade for 2 or 3 days, but I'm still working just as hard. It occurred to me that if I was really going to go after it, I needed to be at a place that was going to challenge me. It was going to be a place that was going to be a lot for me to even continue to grow. But ultimately found my way to the desk. Since I've been on the desk, I've kind of taken those core principles of understand your edge, build some technology around your edge, so that you're alerted to when your edge is present in the market. And then most importantly, go on this quest for understanding dynamic elements of edge, so that every day you come into the market to trade, you do get presented a different opportunity. They're going to be varying levels of opportunity. Some days are A setups, some days are B setups. But you're going to get opportunity every single day, because in the market, there really is opportunity every day. It's just not always exactly the same. So being on the desk, I've been surrounded by some amazing people. It's certainly helped enhance my edge. I've been able, over, I think, the 6 years I've been here, to pick up on things from different traders and help other traders grow in their edges as well. It's really been a great experience. So starting out with that general idea of buying calls before earnings was actually a good idea, because I knew more than the most fundamental analysts, to where I am now is quite an adventure. But I think the core principles have remained pretty much the same through everything.
Yeah, very good. Very relatable story as well. And while we're getting to know Jeff a little bit here, could you just walk us through quickly, maybe a day in the life, starting off with when you wake up, what time do you wake up, and what do you do before you leave your house?
Whatever time, it depends on if I have overnight positions or not. If I have overnight positions, and if I have a decent amount of overnight positions, I tend to wake up around 4:15, depending on what's happening. That's when the equities market's open. So I kind of check what's going on with that. The very first thing I do every day is grab my phone and look at what's happening. If I have I look at what's happening in the broad market. I'll start with maybe looking at futures, but if I have a specific position, I'm immediately looking at that position and kind of understanding what was going on. That's the very first thing I do every morning. On an average morning, it's kind of get up probably, if I don't have a position, I'll probably get up around 6 o'clock, something like that. Try and get a workout in. That's all before I leave my house. Then I make my way to the office. sit down, try and talk with some traders about some ideas. We have a very structured routine, particularly pre-market. Most of the traders on our desk are in 2 or 3 different pre-market meetings. So if you talk about one, if you go into one pre-market meeting and you get one set of ideas on our desk, I'm in 2 and sometimes 3 different pre-market meetings, each with 4 to 5 different traders, all talking about unique ideas that make sense to them on the day. So it's not that I'm listening to all those ideas and taking them in. It's actually more of a filtering process of, if I get to share what I'm doing, I'm getting 3 or 2 reps of talking about where I think the edge might be present today and what trading opportunities I'm going to be looking for. So by the time the trading day starts, I've usually had a little bit of a mental break between those meetings and the open, and I have a little routine that I do just to kind of ground myself and a little mindfulness routine that I do before the open, and then get into the open. And one of the things that I've really been working on a lot over the past 18 months is building very specific technology for scalping. And so a lot of what happens when the market opens is I have my short list of ideas and I'm kind of watching them, but then I'm alerted to the things that fit my criteria, and whether it's 5 or 6 different things, types of edge that can be present. I'm monitoring that screen all the time, because things that I might not have prepared for, but I know exactly how to trade those very well, they might just pop up. Today's a good example. I had 2 things pop up that I wasn't even watching, wasn't even prepared for. One of those 2 things wound up making, a big chunk of my P&L on the day. So it's a lot of just kind of preparing well, and then just sitting back and letting the opportunity come to you. Through the middle of the day, I'm usually in a meeting or talking through different things on the desk. Towards the end of the day, we're gearing up and looking for what might happen into the afternoon, into the close. Today was a great example with a couple different breaking news trades, one in Para and one in BA. And then we had, obviously the marijuana stocks running into the close as well. So it was a really busy afternoon today. And there's some overnight positions sometimes that you're going to have to be thinking about probably till about 8 o'clock when the equity markets close.
Okay. And then let's say done with work for the day, what does a normal evening look like?
I try and do something. So I have kids. I try and do something with my kids. I try and shut off for at least an hour or 2-hour period every night, because if I'm not present there, I find it more difficult the next day. So I really try, whether it's 6 to 8 or 5 to 7 or whatever it winds up being, I try and find a 2-hour period where it's just I'm present there. I get to be with my family. I find that to be very energizing for me. We don't have to be going and doing anything. It could just be hanging at home. But that's something that really recharges my batteries. And I think with any trader on our desk, you'll see there's some routine that they have that's really important to them. Some traders love to travel. Other traders love going to the gym after hours. Other traders love going to dinner. For me, it's spending a couple hours at home with my family. So.
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic, because I think that it's very important in this space, potentially especially where this is such a performance type endeavor, having that process of recharging. And it might at some level feel like, oh, I need to recharge, so I need to sit down and maybe watch some TV, or sit down and have a drink, or some of the things that intuitively might sound like that's helping you recharge are usually not actually what helps you recharge that part of you that's going to be performance. It's usually something active, or something you can get some inspiration from, something like this. But that idea of actively recharging, it's a very interesting topic.
Dr. Steenberger talks about it a lot. Lance talks about it a lot as well. And you'll just see more practice of it on the desk. And it's weird because it's different for everybody. I mean, there's a trader who would, on our desk, I swear, at 4:15 or whenever, if there wasn't anything going on after hours, 4:15, he would take a nap from 4:15 to 5:15. And that was his active recharging, right? That's probably the most passive version of that I've seen. But we have a room in here, and he would go in there for an hour and then come out, and he would be so refreshed and so ready for the rest of the day. It was kind of always a joke, because you'd see him walking off the desk at 4:50 and you knew exactly where he was going. It wasn't like a surprise at all. But Dr. Steenberger has been instrumental in that. He says a lot and really the mindset that I've adopted is you make trading fit your life, not your life fit your trading. So, you really want to make sure that you're getting those recharge moments as much as possible.
Yeah, trading could have a unique way of really taking everything that you give it. It could take all your money, it could take your energy, it could take your everything.
I mean, it's
you're not
tough.
careful.
Yeah, it's a tough balance because we all run really hot. We tend to be very, very competitive, and that is something that we have to work with developing traders on a lot, especially because you'll see traders come in at 5 o'clock in the morning, they stay till 8 o'clock at night every year, their first year. It's because we're really passionate about trading, and passion is kind of a funny word because you can be really passionate about something but not have actually any edge. So it's that combination of really grounding yourself in edge first, but if you're working with edge towards something, that passion really does have a giant payoff. But we're all in this game, at least on our desk. We want every trader that walks through the door to be here for 10 years. And we know if they can be here for 10 years, if they can sit in their seat for 10 years, they're going to do quite well. And that's historically what we've seen. And so a big part of everything that we do is making sure that every moment that you're working is grounded in edge, and every moment that you're not working is grounded in that kind of, fulfilling type outside of work activities.
Yeah. When you find yourself on the weekends, do you purposely shut things off, or do you work on the weekend at all?
I do work on the weekend. I typically try and shut stuff off on a Saturday and then leave most of Sunday open as well. And then like 4 or 5 o'clock on Sunday, kind of ramp it back up again. It does depend a little bit. In my role now, I get to work with a lot of the traders on the desk. So sometimes that's the only time that we get to set aside time to talk together, especially if it's a busy week. So there are times that I'll find myself working on Saturday and Sunday, but most of the time now I try and shut it down at least Friday evening until like Sunday midday.
Yeah. And with your responsibilities at, being one of the heads over at SMB Capital, does this kind of work seamlessly into your trading, where the things you're doing, you're bringing people on board, or do you take chunks of what would maybe be trading day set aside for other responsibilities? I guess asking your working hours, what would be like the split between your own personal trading and your responsibilities?
Yeah, I protect the time in the open, until 11 o'clock, that's my trading time. I tend to not schedule anything. I mean, and that's a part of it is because I feel really lucky to be on a call with some great people. We're just on a Discord call, but traders on the desk, and that is a part of really helping me enjoy the trading experience. Being on the desk, hearing people call stuff out, being able to share ideas and not always get the feedback that I'm looking for even. Maybe have somebody call me out for something that they're like, why are you even wasting your time with that, right? Just stop. But that is really helpful for me. So I always protect that time from the open till about 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, we do run a meeting, and I enjoy that meeting. It's a trader development meeting. I used to try and trade during that time, but usually by that time I'm either in a position that I'm planning to be in for the rest of the day, or I shut everything down, and then kind of do a reset process. So literally the same process we talked about pre-market, I do that again before I come back to the trading day. So if I'm up for 30 minutes during the meeting, or maybe we're going to go grip lunch or something like that, I'm up for an hour. Whenever I sit back down to my seat, it's like a new day started, and I work through that same process. Just update the names that I'm watching and talk with our team about things that maybe there was news that came out, or maybe there was an economic event that happened that changed it. So update the narrative, but it really is like a full reset process every time I sit back down to trade.
Yeah. Do you do transcendental meditation?
I do not. You're the second person this week that talked about it. So in our trader development meeting each week, we have a competition, right? And it's not like a competition like something crazy. It's something small that we do. They're always habit focused, like habits that are going to make you better. And one of the things that we did are doing this week is we put out a mindfulness challenge, right? Anybody that's in our trader development meeting can email in their mindfulness practice. So, it's a couple hundred people or whatever, sometimes in our meeting, and they can email in their mindfulness practice. And the only rule was it needed to be 5 minutes, right? It can't be like more than 5 minutes. And like two people emailed in like a YouTube video about transcendental meditation. And they said, this has been really, really helpful to me. And, it's not necessary. I don't know the difference. I didn't, be honest, I didn't watch the entire video. I know mindfulness is something you'll see everybody on the desk for the most part do, but it comes in a lot of different forms. But these folks that emailed in they were such proponents of transcendental meditation. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Very good.
Okay. So
Over
sell
at
me on
SMB
it. Why should I be doing that? I don't know.
Oh, well,
I mean, I'm assuming you do it if you're asking the question.
Well, I am here in Rishikesh, India, and this is kind of where the hub of that started. At least one of the, I'll get some of this wrong, but some of the guru that put it forward to the world. This is where it originated. So just this last week before, I started going through the course and then completed my thing. So I've actually just started it fresh myself, and I think that there's a few people in the States that are using this that it might be becoming a bit popular. But the thing about transcendental meditation is a very natural, nice way to naturally and very productively just release stress from your body that you've been holding on to. This is one of the real major benefits before you can work your way down into entering these just deeper states of consciousness where you have that space with a lot of other mindful techniques where you can, create that distance from feeling something to happening to do it. But in this deep rest that you can put yourself into, it also is a great source of creative energy. And I feel like I'm just barely touching the surface. I'm actually using it a lot right now and releasing a lot of stress from my body. You can kind of feel it going from your body when you're in these deep states of being very alert, but at the same time, entering a deeper level of consciousness. So it's very interesting. I'm very thankful to be on the path of it now, and maybe I'll chime back in a few months and let you know better how it's affecting me.
We find there's like a 30 to 45 day window. I'm sure that's like habits based, but 30 to 45 day window of anything that you practice before you really see the results. There's like that initial burst, and we'll see this with traders all the time. Like, we're working with a trader right now on a specific problem that he's having where he's giving back too much of his really good days, right? So he'll have a good day, or he'll be up a decent amount on the day, like maybe a stop and a half, and he'll give back too much. And so we worked with him, and he came up with this of a give back rule, right? So when he gets up a certain amount of his stop on the day, if he gives back a piece of that stop to a specific point, he's done trading for the day, right? So that essentially becomes like him raising his stop on the day. Like, he still could be having, a decent day, but we found that once he gets to that point, it's very quick for that slippery slope to get him to the wrong side very, very fast. And so working with him on that cutoff point. Now, we set out with this goal, right? We wrote up this beautiful document. He was very instrumental in like, this is going to change. I'm so excited, Jeff. This is awesome. And we got a week in where he's doing great. And then we had a little slip up. And that's very normal, I think, to start to see the results and be so excited about it, but then have that, like, you don't really see the outcome for really a month to a month and a half.
That's right.
But when you get past that month and a half, it's unbelievable how powerful that is, because now you've got all this momentum on your side, and you've actually gone through the challenges of finding out a lot of information. Where before, when we start, we have the least amount of information possible, but the most amount of enthusiasm, which is really kind of not healthy. So I'll be excited to hear in 30 to 45 days how it's going for you.
Yeah, thank you. I know at the S&P Capital, you guys speak a lot about and big proponents of the playbook as something that you've popularized. Could we kind of run down some thoughts I have about this? Some questions I'd like to ask you, just as a brief starting question. How would you sum up if the tagline for what is a playbook trade?
In my world, in my mind, a playbook trade is a distinguished and repeatable source of edge that you have found present in the market. So it's a way to categorize that. It's a way to track your execution of it, but it's a very specific source of edge that you have observed in the market or in the equities you trade, in our case, in It might be in a futures or it might be in Forex or something like that, but it's a very specific source of edge that you're categorizing, and you're categorizing using a various set of variables or a group of variables so that it becomes something repeatable. That's really how I would sum it up best.
Could you define real world edge, another thing you say a lot?
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break from today's episode because I need to ask you a very important question. Have you ever been trading, maybe up against the hard right edge of the screen, and you find yourself maybe coming off of a loss and thinking thoughts like, what is going on? I'm confused. I don't get it. You ever think those kind of thoughts? Of course you have, because you're not using today's video sponsor, Jigsaw Trading. Jigsaw Trading provides institutional grade tools, education, and insights to help traders make better decisions. And it's no secret that the best traders in the world are using Orderflow, sometimes exclusively, but they're using it at some level. And if you don't understand Orderflow, and if you don't have the tools to see it, you're just missing an important piece of information. Full stop. Jigsaw Trading is the real deal when it comes to equipping traders with the tools and education to trade like pros. And I'm talking about their award-winning trading platform called DayTrader. This is going to give you elite level order flow analysis, custom charts, automated trading analytics, and it was built based on techniques actually used by institutional traders to give you clarity into market movement. And that's just one part of the package. They also have Journalytics, the most advanced journaling and analytics system that is going to track your progress and help you identify your weaknesses. They also go beyond tools and resources with step-by-step video courses and drills designed by real professionals to shortcut your learning curve dramatically. So, whether you're a seasoned pro or brand new to the screens, Jigsaw Trading is going to have something for you. Oh, and did I forget to mention that they're giving away a free order flow training right now? All you're gonna have to do is click the link below, and it's gonna take you to a free order flow training where you can see what Jigsaw is all about for yourself. A big thank you to Jigsaw for sponsoring this episode. Make sure you check out their free video training. Now let's get back to the episode.
It's something that I think we have become very sensitive to. I certainly was sensitive to it early on because Twitter and publicly available, you would hear a lot of information about how great somebody's trading results were. And that would go on for a period of time, and perhaps they would post some lovely photos of them doing some things. But the reality is when the markets evolved a little bit, or even maybe they took an outsized loss or something, you'd start to see that unravel really, really quickly. What we view as real world edge is a specific occurrence of events. And in our world, a lot of that is identifying what big players are doing in a specific environment. Maybe it's we'll use an example today. We did a playbook on Krispy Kreme. DNUT was the ticker. And we reviewed the specific day that it was, I think last week, that they signed a partnership deal with McDonald's, right? So all of a sudden, Krispy Kreme went from having, I think it was 327 stores to being sold at every McDonald's location, which is like 140,000 or something like that. 14,000, right, in the US. Like crazy shift in the availability of this product. Well, that's an idea that the stock's going to go up, right? That's not edge in and of itself. But when we broke down the variables of it, okay, this happened pre-market, right? This news came out pre-market. So would an institutional, big players, what we call hedge funds, institutions, asset management companies, would they have time to be able to make a trading decision before the open of whether they were going to buy or sell that stock? Well, not necessarily. So you might be talking about something that's going to move closer to 10 o'clock after those big players have been able to have their meetings, set their strategy, understand how they're going to adjust their portfolios. And then after that 10 o'clock to 10:30 window, that's where you really see the trade starting to set up. So that's where you get it. We take a catalyst and a specific setup, and then we combine it with the trades that are likely to go into, that are likely to provide us with real edge. So if you take the catalyst, which we talked about the positive catalyst there, with the setup, it was gapping up into a resistance area, potentially above the resistance area. It was very unexpected. The quickness of the change showed that in the price action. Then we have a series of actual trades. So the trades are really identifying what are the ways that these institutions could be buying the stock if we're looking to go long it. So we identified a changing fundamentals trend trade. It's really just a wedge breakout that, after 1030, if we're holding above VWAP, which is something we use a lot of, consolidating, then you see an increase in volume and a break to the upside. That's a trade you're going to be in, and you're going to be in for most of the day. And so we reviewed that trade today. And then we also talked about, I do a lot of scalping. So even if I'm in that trade to hold, that changing fundamentals trend trade, I'm looking for different ways to scalp around in my position. So we had something that I love, which is called the second chance scalp. And I had to build some technology in order to help me find these opportunities. But you have these different, very distinct scalps that occur within that bigger trade. So it's the combination of all those things that come together to form that real world edge. It's really identifying where are the big players likely to be present, right? Why are they going to act in the way that they're going to act today? And then how do I actually have a superior risk reward and high probability in that moment based on those two previous factors? That all defines real world edge to us. It doesn't mean that it's going to work 100% of the time. We still protect our risk to reward, but it does mean that we're more likely to recognize when those players are present, when they're acting in that specific, predictable way we expect them to act. And even more importantly, when they're not. Because when they're not, that allows us to say, this just isn't right. And you just kind of either don't take the trade, or you're smaller, or you work out of the trade before you take a big rip. So that is what we mean by real world edge.
Thank you for explaining that. When you're sitting down at the screens and trading, do you ever put on a position that is not a playbook trade for you?
I can't say this to Bella, but yeah. We call those invented trades, and all of us are a little guilty of them. We were aware of the invented trades. A lot of times it's when you're anticipating something setting up, or you think something's going to set up. And usually the thing that we find on the desk, and what I've done, is when you can minimize your size on the invented trades, you can get away with it. If I'm risking 1/10 of what I'd risk on a real playbook trade in an invented trade, or 1/100th, then I can kind of get away with it. But it is something that we struggle with, and you do as traders. You can kind of slip into that invented trade, and what we mean by that is, the edge is maybe sort of going to show up, but like maybe I'll just put a little on here to see if that edge is going to show up. I don't actually have edge yet, but maybe it might sort of be that way. And so that's where we invent trades. So the key is not to invent trades. All of us as traders, I think, are guilty of sort of inventing trades. The key is to make sure that your risk is small enough that you're not going to hurt yourself at all.
So generally, from your perspective, the invented trade is not something that is something that you generally should be avoiding, is more a moment of weakness than a good idea from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we do on the desk is just play to our strengths. And that's where the edge comes in. If you understand where your trading edge comes from, I have 5 distinct scalps that I work on, actually a little bit more now, but 5 distinct scalps that I've built technology around, and we share that technology with the desk, and other people can do that as well, in our community and stuff. But the key to, it's not about not making mistakes. It's not about not going down that path where you invent trades. The key is to recognize that, okay, your self-talk kind of kicks in, and you're like, I'm actually inventing this trade. Or maybe somebody on the desk calls you out and is like, yeah, you don't actually have what you think you have there. And the quicker you can kind of get yourself back on that path. I'm sure it's a lot of what I've heard of with what this person was telling me with transcendental meditation. It's not about like straying from what you're focusing on. It's actually the process of bringing yourself back that's really the key. And that's the muscle that we get to build as traders every day. I mean, we're very aware that all of us are going to make mistakes. We're human, and that human element is not something we're ever going to escape. But we try and put as many guardrails around what we're doing. And so, we have a risk manager. We're fortunate to have that. So if we start inventing too many trades, then he'll come over and let us know. But, for the most part, we play in a space where there's a lot of room for error, and that's okay. Because we make a lot of mistakes, and that's okay too. But when your edge is really present, that's the moment to really take advantage of it in the market. When everything lines up, that is the opportunity that we are all here for. And that's when things you feel in that flow. Everybody talks about the flow state. Well, the flow state is trading within your edge based on what we see. What you're seeing in the market's actually there, and you understand what's actually there. And it's almost like you know exactly what should happen next or what is happening next. And it feels like this flow state, but in reality, it's just a real trading edge that you happen to be a part of. And the biggest mistake you can make in that is inventing a reason to get out.
Damn. Coming from you, that was incredibly powerful and a really important topic that I hope isn't missed by people listening. But this idea that we are not going to be perfect. And if you put this crazy expectation on yourself that you're going to execute everything flawlessly, that extreme level of importance is setting yourself up for crazy emotions when the inevitable happens. And when you can be in this space of understanding that mistakes happen and learning how to minimize those and correct them as soon as possible, this is a way to navigate this, as opposed to idealizing some version of yourself where nothing ever goes wrong and then you go crazy when it inevitably does. Thank you for saying that. That was very, very good.
I mean,
can I ask you this?
Especially starting out, I thought the really good traders were absolutely perfect. Over time, I certainly realized that they're just better at not letting mistakes get out of hand.
Damn.
And then even more importantly, they're really good. Everybody on our desk that we work really hard at this, but you want to be really good when it's good opportunity.
Can I ask you this? How important is it for you to keep the, let's say, playbook private? In a sense, like, let's say there was a data leak and somehow tens of thousands of people, traders, had access to your specific playbook or your quality trades. Would this kill it for you and it would not be available? Or would it be something with so much edge in the way that you trade it specifically that people would have a hard time doing it, even if they knew what it was?
Yeah, I mean, we deal with that every day. Like we actually created cheat sheets. So I'm sure Kurt or we can share the link to, if people want to learn more about the way we trade. There's cheat sheets that actually showcase the concepts of the edge. And those were made public. And I think at first it was like, oh, this, it's frustrating that somebody took that and shared it. But at the end of the day, it's like, we're all on a quest for edge. So if those cheat sheets are actual strategies, literally like the name trades, the rules of entry, the factors that encourage that like show you have more edge, the factors that tell you have less edge, all those are public and out there. I think I lost a little bit of sleep at first about that. I was really worried that, oh man, what if I'm giving away my edge? But at the end of the day, it's like, there's a lot of it that comes down to your execution, but even more importantly, a lot of it is there's just so much opportunity in the market. There's so much opportunity, trading opportunity. Our belief is markets are opportunity generating machines. And we have not run into a situation where, we haven't been able to trade something because somebody took our edge away. That probably is going to evolve at some point. And I hope as a desk and certainly me as a trader, my edges will continue to evolve as well. But, when something's grounded in a fundamental reason why traders or big players are acting in the way that they're acting, we can adjust to that and we can make the adjustments necessary so that we can take advantage of the opportunities the market's generating for us.
Yeah. Are there trades in general that in the office and your entire desk, like when this happens, all hands on deck, everybody's executing, everybody's getting in and out at the same time, or is it very diverse?
Probably not everything. If there's, we've had some really good Friday 0 DTE trades in this past month. We'll have a month of reviews tomorrow. We'll all get into the conference room right over there. Different teams will come in at different times and we'll talk about our months. I would put a high bet that most of our conversations are going to be about 2 opportunities that occurred. And they were both Friday opportunities, maybe 3, but definitely 2. Both of them gave us the opportunity to trade options, 0 DTE options. They gave us insane risk to reward. And they were all sort of overextension trades. So when you say all hands on deck, everybody's trading the exact same thing, but different traders are executing based on a little bit of their own personality. So maybe somebody's playbook is, I'm going to trail 50%, or I'm going to trail 25%, or I'm going to hold everything, or I'm going to swing, or I'm going to scalp it, or I'm going to do, very rarely is everybody's execution is exactly the same. We don't train traders that way. We train traders through exposure. So we teach you a lot of what we know, but we have a lot of faith in each person to make the best decisions for them, and understand that the real trading opportunity comes from you understanding it and you taking advantage of what makes sense to you, even if it's the exact same trade or the exact same setup. It really has to come down to, it makes sense to you. And if it does, again, you're going to sidestep a lot of those emotions, and you're just going to, because it just makes so much sense to you. You're like, why wouldn't I do it this way? That's a big component of what you'll see on our desk.
When you're trading, I know you talked about developing some scalping type strategies right now. Are you in a position where you are kind of always actively looking for maybe a new trade idea that you can build a playbook around? Or is there a place where you have what you have and you focus on just executing those?
From an execution perspective, I'd say 95% of my playbook's pretty established. But I'm always, and I think this is true for everybody on our desk, we always have that little bit of, we call it a budget, essentially a percent of your daily stop that isn't for invented trades, but it's for trades that are in development, right? So, you don't want to blow your budget on stuff that doesn't make any sense, but it's stuff that maybe you're studying, right? So like, trying to think of a good example of that. Okay. Here's a really good one that we haven't seen this trade in a while, but it's starting to come back, which is a VWAP continuation to the downside. Like, we just hadn't seen that trade happen in a while. And so it's not an active part of my playbook. I generally understand the trade, but I haven't really traded it in a while. And what it is it's kind of a stock is a little bit below VWAP, hasn't really touched VWAP, has a quick spray up into it, and then a failure. And the reality is, you're looking for continuation to the downside. You're looking for a structural range break to the downside, but you want all your size from this kind of pretty uncomfortable spot. Well, that trade hasn't been working, because what has been working is it goes up, breaks VWAP, continues, and grinds higher. That trade's starting, we've noticed it a couple times, so it's back in my developmental budget. If I see it, I'll put on a small amount and try and get a feel for it again. Conceptually, I generally understand that trade. And most of the time, to even build a playbook, you have to generally understand the trade. But you really want it to turn into something, you want to try it a couple times. And on our desk, you have to try it 20 times before you can risk any real capital. If you have 20 experiences of that specific trade, you actually have some data to be able to understand, is this just an observation or is this actual edge?
Yeah, very good. You have a very interesting perspective of being able to come from the dirt as a retail trader and climb all the way up to being consistent and reaching the heights of being at SMB Capital, and also having a very large social media presence, or at least being a part of it. Can I ask you this? When you think about maybe the average retail trader and the path that they're on and what they know and the things that you've learned along the way, would you say in general that the average person out there trying to trade can be on a good path, is on a good path, or they're so lost and they're actually on a really bad path and they don't even know what they don't know?
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on each person. I've certainly been on both sides of that spectrum when I was starting out. I remember feeling like I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I also remember feeling like I was definitely on a good path when I wasn't. So, and I remember then being on a good path. I think it depends a little bit on the person. The reality of the situation is, there are days that I remember how wonderful it was to start as a retail trader. Because at that point, everything is an opportunity. Like everything, there's an overwhelming amount of idea generation and opportunity. And it was so exciting, right? It was like, you'd see somebody on Twitter making, they'd post their P&L or they talk about how much they made, and you're like, whoa, I could just do that. That would be amazing, right? And then maybe a little bit later, you realize that was one trade and they've lost on the other 19 or something like that. Or you'll see something that somebody's doing and it's like really exciting. And so maybe you learn a little bit about it. So I don't think that there's really anything that is that crucial about the beginning stages of your trading. I think the beginning stages of your trading is more about exploring, kind of finding out different things. I think the only point that it becomes you going on the wrong path is your risk allocation. If you're in there trying to risk a bunch of money because you're expecting this really amazing outcome without any edge, that can be a really challenging path. But if you're into trading because it's a really exciting thing and you want to learn and everything, there isn't really a bad path. I mean, even on those developmental strategies that we just talked about, that risk budget, that extra budget that we have, like there are a bunch of times that the trades that I'm working on don't have any edge, and that's okay, right? Because it's not really like I need to make sure that these trades have edge. I probably have more trades, probably 3 times or 4 times as many trades that never make it to my actual playbook as I do that make it to the playbook. So I don't think that experimenting ever really truly goes away, or that failure, I guess, is kind of what you're talking about, that going down the wrong path. I don't think that ever really goes away in trading. I think you just get better at managing your risk associated, and most importantly, your expectations associated with it. So to answer the question, do I think retail traders or do I think traders in general early on are going down the wrong path? No, I think everybody's in the right path. It's just make sure you're waiting till you have edge to actually allocate risk.
Great perspective. Being that you guys are a legitimate prop shop and at the top of the list, with the explosion of funding companies that have come into the scene, generally, what's your perspective? Net positive or net negative for retail traders, these funded companies?
I wish I understood more about them. I really don't. I get to talk with a lot of developing traders. Some of the traders that we've worked with have come from this, especially it seems like in the last few months, and last year probably. It just sounds like some of the rules are a little confusing to me. Like I don't understand why some of the rules, when learning about them, some of the rules seem quite confusing as to why would they make that rule. I don't believe, in my experience, isn't that anybody that says trade just this way, or trade, this is the only way to trade and you can't do anything else. It's kind of limiting, unfortunately. What I do think is that you should take if that's the only thing you're going to do. But what I do think is you should take the edge that's present in there and understand what are the other ways that you could apply it. What are the other things that you can do that would make sense to you? So, anything that gets traders trading is a good thing. But I do think that you have to be a little careful with some of those from what I've heard. Again, this is me not knowing really anything about those. Just talking about it from the perspective of what I've heard from other people. I think you want to make sure that if you're going to go that way, that you understand what you're trying to do and what their objectives are. And you want to make sure you're lining up your objectives with their objectives.
Is there a question that you wish I would just go ahead and ask you, or as you're even on social media, do you find that there's like a topic that you wish people talked about more?
Risk management. I think that's a crucial part of it. I mean, on our desk, we say start with your stop. Like, you don't really have a trade until you understand where your stop is. And your stop typically isn't like at least with the way we trade, it isn't like a general risk reward component. It's not, I'm going to risk 1 to make 3 and wow, that worked out so well. It's actually the price actions telling you where your stop is and where you're wrong in the trade. I think that's a giant component to risk management, because the reality is you don't really know how much you're risking unless you know exactly where your stop is. I think that's a big thing that I wish more people were talking about. And you don't really hear that as much as I think we're starting to hear more of it, which is exciting. But that's a big thing on our desk, is make sure that you, first of all, understand what your edge is. But then even from an execution perspective, you have to see where your stop is, and you have to understand why your stop is there before you even get to the point where you're entering a trade. Because if you don't, then your sizing is probably going to be completely off and you're more prone to making a mistake. Maybe if the trade doesn't work out exactly as you wanted, but isn't doing anything wrong, that can be a big problem. So I wish more people would talk about that, but let's be honest, nobody's gonna click on that. It's not very fun. Nobody talks about their driving. What do people drive now? Lambos? Is that the thing on Twitter? I'm so like against everything Furu-ish. because
Start
we
with your stop.
really, really hard. We work really, really hard at being good at trading. And even the really successful traders we have on the desk, even me, everybody works really hard at being a good trader.
Yeah. Last little segment here before I let you go to the maybe like you're just talking to an average retail trader who's out there, maybe been on the journey for a little bit, definitely wants to do this, hasn't really found any type of consistency yet. What's a word of encouragement you would give to him?
Encouragement.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. We've had a lot more female traders, which is one of the most exciting things. Like Dr. Steenbarger talks about how he believes female traders make better traders than male traders do. You know, and so I think in our internship class coming in, we have the most number of females we've ever had, which is really exciting. So I'm thrilled. You know, having a daughter, you know, I will never push her to trade, but if she wants to trade, I'll be thrilled, super excited about that. But a word of encouragement would be, you know, find a community, find somebody that you feel like you can learn from that really is adding value to your trading, and then just add as much value to them as you possibly can. Figure out a way to add value. Like everybody, I've yet to come across a trader who doesn't have something of value to add to those around them. You know, it really is a question of if you're willing to add value to those around you as much as possible. And if you're in a community that's adding value, truly adding value to what you're doing. Especially early on, you know, making sure that you're learning from others and sharing with others and have a community, whether it's even a pod of two other traders, making sure that you have that is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, great words. To that same trader, what is a harsh truth that you'd like them to know?
I work just as hard now as I did the first day I started trading. You know, like it doesn't, the work doesn't go away. The challenges don't go away. Maybe the zeros change and and like the magnitude of the emotions kind of can change at times. But you know, all those that feel like, oh, I don't really do much work, or I'm now at a point where I can coast or anything like that. I don't really think that's what we're here to do as traders. You know, when the market's hot, when there's a lot of opportunity, we want to be at our desk trading, and when there's not, we do take a lot of time to step away and reset and all that stuff. But you know, in general, I don't think the work goes away, which is you know, kind of the fun part about this.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It has been great to sit down and listen to you and to bounce these ideas off you and just to hear you speak. And I'm sure while you were explaining things, you probably might not even realized, but just hearing you explain some of your thought process was very insightful. And so a very big thank you. I'm going to say goodbye to you properly as soon as we stop the recording, but as a end to the public video, I'm just going to turn the floor over to you, and you can say the final word, whether you'd like to promote something, or we'll obviously have your links that you'd like in the description, or just give any kind of a final word. I'll turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, great. You know, we're real traders. We love what we do. I'm sure there'll be some links in there that you can check out if you want to learn more, you know, some of those cheat sheets where you can steal our edge or whatever you want to talk about. But you know, in general, like I'm thrilled to be a part of the trading community that exists. I think that I find so much joy in interacting with other traders. I find so much goodness in the trading community as a whole. So I'm really happy to be a part of this today. Thanks.